And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Sipshan people. The goal of hospice care is to prioritize comfort, quality of life, and individual wishes. How comfort is defined is up to each individual, or, if the patient is incapacitated, the patient's family. This can include addressing physical, emotional, spiritual, and/or social needs. In hospice care, patient-directed goals are integral and interwoven throughout the care. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to bring you this story from 2002.
Terrace's Hospice Society is a good place to start for anyone wondering about services for someone who is dying. Its coordinator and about 30 volunteers offer information and direct support. Deirdre McEwen knows firsthand just how important that kind of support is. She was reunited with her biological mother just a few years ago, and within a short while, her mother was dying of breast cancer. McEwen visited but couldn't stay in Calgary at the hospice facility there while her mother neared death.
And so there I was, here, I'm here in Terrace, the coordinator of the services here, depending on their services there.
At the end, Deirdre wrote a quick fax to be read to her mother.
Dear volunteer, I wish to thank you for your kindness in being with our mother. This is especially a gift to me, as I myself cannot be there with her during her final earthly hours, as I so long to. So I'm asking you to read this in my place. Please read it slowly, clearly, don't rush. Sit closely beside Hannelore, and please hold her hand while you read it, just as I would. That made all the difference for both of us. She was there, she read the letter to my mother, held her hand, cried my tears for me in my place, and helped her to pass, to let go. I'll never forget her, right? That's what this work is about, just helping people.
Yeah.
Gertrude Parks is one of the Terrace Hospice Society's volunteers. She took her training about 10 years ago.
My first client was an elderly gentleman, and I would just walk with him to give his wife a break and take him down to the Happy Gang Center, and we'd drink coffee and visit and walk back home, and it just gave her a bit of a break. And eventually I started volunteering with more terminally ill people. I've sat with people, read with them, massaged their arms, just listened to them, and I've actually sat with people while they were dying and just held their hand. And I've been there for families afterwards just to deal with the whole grief process, going to the funeral with them and helping them through that. So it's really a variety of things.
People who are losing someone they love, their main task is saying goodbye. And what we hope to do is to offer our services so that they can focus on that job, just saying goodbye.
Many hospice volunteers have been through the death of a loved one themselves. That helps them understand what families are going through. And for some, like Gertrude Parks, helping others helps their own healing. Professionals who work in the palliative care field recognize personal rewards too. Catherine Murray was one of the presenters at a series of workshops and a forum held recently in Terrace. She finds a sense of sacred, sadness, and humor among her patients in Victoria, and takes that perspective home where she's raising 5 children.
And I'm able to remember really well that it's not the clean house or the fancy car or the designer clothes. It's not the surface stuff that matters, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. So I think that work with the dying for me brings a certain perspective, but it also, I think it's an enriching work that touches on the heart and that I feel quite passionate about.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Canadian physician, surgeon, and academic Dr. Balfour Mount is credited as father of palliative care in North America. In 1975, Dr. Mount created a ward to care for the terminally ill. Since Canada's official languages include English and French, Mount proposed the term palliative care ward, as the word hospice was already used in France to refer to nursing homes. Let us return to the archives with Dr. Jackie Fraser.
Murray and others say people aren't so much afraid of death as they are of the dying process. Dying is often associated with pain, but big advances have been made in pain management, and experts say 80% of cases can be handled relatively easily, as long as doctors and other caregivers understand medications well enough.
Medications like codeine, like morphine, Dilaudid. There's a whole range of good pain medications available now, but people are still a little leery of using them. I think people need to be reassured that these medications are safe, they work, if they're properly used. And doctors are the only people that can prescribe the medication. But as I said earlier, some doctors are still a little bit anxious about using them as freely as maybe they could. Some of us are still working as if you have to have really bad pain before you get anything for it. And really we should be looking at it from a common sense point of view. If you have pain all the time because you have cancer all the time or another painful illness, it doesn't make sense just to take medication when it's unbearable. Why don't you take medication all the time?
We need to be able to make sure that our teams are able to understand the basics of pain management of difficulty breathing if that occurs, management of nausea and vomiting, management of restlessness and confusion, that people will be able to be comfortable as they die.
The Romanow Commission on Healthcare in Canada is considering palliative care, along with other areas right now, as it holds hearings across the country. Deirdre McEwen wants to see a national strategy which includes adequate funding for groups like hers.
Now, Terrace is a fantastic community. They have supported us for 10 years, even in tough times like now, we still have community support. But if the government is serious about including palliative care, end-of-life care in the national strategy for healthcare, then they have to get serious about offering us some funding as well.
Dr. Fraser notes the province spends very little specifically on palliative care, and she hopes that fact will actually protect it from cuts.
We have now for the last, just over a year, had a palliative care benefits program through the Ministry of Health Continuing Care, which has been excellent to enable people to stay at home with funding for their medications and for equipment like special hospital bed or that kind of occupational therapy equipment. That has been funded for the past year and a bit by the government, and it's an excellent program. I hope that doesn't get cut, because that will actually put more pressure on hospital beds. People can't afford to stay home sometimes when they really want to.
Fraser also points out while the cost of families and volunteers can be high, dying at home costs the healthcare system less. Surveys show most Canadians would choose to die at home if they could, and palliative care workers feel strongly that patients should have choices about how much information they want, the management of their conditions, and where to take that final journey.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. With a 12-hour shift schedule, there are only 2 shift turnovers per day, resulting in fewer opportunities for miscommunications and production disruptions that may occur during the shift changeover periods. This can translate into increased productivity, along with lower error and accident rates. Let us return to archives that highlight 2 occupations that utilize the 12-hour shift schedule.
Working the night shift. It works for some, and others couldn't even imagine working a shift completely opposite than what is deemed a regular 9 to 5 daytime shift.
It's part of the job. You make the best of it, and it is part of the expectations of nursing.
It's fine in the nights. There's a bit more action, a bit more in the way of people, different kind of people you're working with in the nighttime than you're in the daytime. You have a bit more flexibility at nighttime as opposed to the daytime.
It's far more stressful, without a doubt. I mean, just the stress of putting your body, having to be up for that period of time. I mean, it's one thing to stay up till midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, the occasional Friday or Saturday night, but to have to stay up till 8 o'clock in the morning, be on your toes, and in a capacity to function in the area that I work, it's quite stressful. And your body, it takes a lot of preparation. It takes a lot of healthy living styles, exercise, mental time down, looking after yourself to keep yourself in that form that you can keep functioning on a night shift in a good manner.
And then there's a safety issue. Nighttime is often equated to higher crime rates and different crime definitions. But what is it really like for the people who actually have to be awake and work when the other half of the world is asleep?
I'd say it's probably a little bit more dangerous at times. That's true. Dogs than one, though. Like I said, you're dealing with a lot more violent occurrences at nighttime. You're attending a lot more situations such as domestics, fights, suicidal calls. Should be you're also dealing with a added factor of a lot more impaired drivers at nighttime. And also with our climate, especially with a drop in temperature here, the roads are a lot slicker at nighttime than they're in the daytime.
Many of those who work the night shift find sometimes they have to find unique ways to make the most out of family time.
Being a single parent and shift work on top of that, it's a constant juggle between schedules. You're just trying to balance between work and spending quality time with your family at home. And then just a lack of sleep on occasion, or the irritability tends to play a factor in that. Because your work hours are late at night, you're basically at work when your family's asleep. So you do end up, just in the long run, spending more awake time with your family.
But for night shifts, you have to plan even more because you have to incorporate sleep time. And sleep time can be difficult when you're trying to sleep during the day and you have a family. So it does require a fair bit of planning and making arrangements.
At night, it's a whole other world. Sure, it's dark, but the people who work these shifts come across many different experiences. Things people who work in the same building but during the day would never come across.
Well, I think policing itself every day is every day comes up with a weird situation or an oddity. Like I said, it's definitely different kinds of people that come out at nighttime than in the daytime. And your contact with people is different at night than it is in the daytime. So, I mean, you do have some situations which are going to be weirder, anywhere from, people seeing UFOs at nighttime to people seeing even ghosts or other oddities at nighttime that you don't necessarily see in the daytime.
The most unusual thing to date that I can recall working the night shift is I was supervising at the hospital, which means I answer the emergency calls. And there was somebody at the door at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I went down, and a gentleman had been driving from Kitimat to Terrace, and he hit a porcupine. And he had decided that he needed to have this porcupine resuscitated. And of course, I explained to him that this was not the likely thing a hospital would do. But it was quite funny now that I look back on it.
What about the whole social aspect? You'll find that many people who work these shifts have difficulty arranging outings with friends who work the so-called normal shifts, and therefore you'll find that night shift workers tend to find acquaintances within their circle of co-workers.
Your social life suffers a fair bit. It's very hard to find friends that understand the situation that you're in and the amount of rest that you require. That's probably why you'll find nurses hang out with nurses and doctors hang out with doctors and police hang out with police. For that reason, it's of the same understanding. And lots of our friends, they'll want to book us for dinner on a Saturday night or go to this on a Friday night. And if I'm working the night before, they just don't understand, how physically exhausted you are after working some night shifts.
Being a shift worker in the north here, it's very limiting for a social life. Majority of your friends and associates do keep more of a regular routine in their lives, and the majority of people you end up socializing with are the shift workers. that have similar shifts with you. There's a lot of nocturnal people out here that end up working quite a few hours, weird hours all the time. But socially, I find it's very limiting. Most of your friends that are going to sleep at about 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night and then you're getting up, going to work at about 8 or 9 at night, coming out here and working till 7 in the morning. So the time you're getting off work, going home, going to bed, they're just getting up and starting their day out.
So it works for some and it doesn't for others, but we all have to make a living, whether it be during the day or working through the night.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
During the aftermath of the Jacobite uprising in 1745, bagpipes were subjected to a ban in Scotland. The British government deemed bagpipes as instruments of war and symbols of rebellion, leading to their classification as such and their subsequent prohibition. The ban was officially lifted in 1782. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the archives with Terrace Pipes and Drums Society's Pat Hall.
It's a very old instrument, introduced into the British Isles by the Romans during the Roman conquest of Britain in the 1st century. They came to the Romans via the Sumerians, Babylonians, Egyptians. There were originally, the earliest form of the bagpipe was found in the Sumerian city of Ur, and they found what looks very similar to this, except that all of the wooden parts were gone. But it was, from the configuration that they found it, they could tell that it was similar to this. This is a practice chanter. The music that we learn is learned on this instrument and then transferred to the big Highland bagpipes later. The instrument itself is it has 1 hole in the back of the chanter, 6 in the front, and 1 in the bottom. What that allows you to play is 8 notes. Every piece of music that we play is derived from those 8 notes, plus a series of doublings and grace notes and embellishments on each one. And the rest of it is just timing and
And every night in a well-known location in Terrace at the Kin Hut, the Terrace Pipes and Drum Society get together to practice already known tunes and learn some new ones.
This is our standard practice night. It's comprised of 2 parts. The junior practice, which goes from 7 o'clock till 7:30, and the senior practice, table practice, which goes from 7:30 until roughly 8:15, and then until 9:30 on the actual bagpipes, where you actually play the music on the bagpipes, and also do any marching that you have to learn in a floor show that's coming up as practiced at that time.
The society was formed in 1973 and has seen many faces come and go, but one thing all the members have to say is how delighted they are when new faces approach them for lessons that are provided free of charge to eager students.
Oh, I just love teaching new people. It's really nice to see new faces, especially young faces, come out. But we've had young students and as young as 8 years old come to learn, and then we've had people as old as 60 or 70 to come and learn. So it's really cool to see the vast age group and to see these young people and the older people mixing in a social scene.
Anyone is welcome to come out, regardless of Celtic heritage or background. It doesn't matter a bit. If you have the slightest interest in learning how to play the bagpipes and learning how to master this very historic instrument, this is the place to be. We also teach drumming, it accompanies the pipe band and keeps timing, because a lot of people play at different rates and different speeds, even though it's the same tune. The drums set the pace for everyone, and we play to their speed and tempo. There is one. The way the rank structure runs is that the actual chief of any pipe band is the drum major, and he takes his instruction or his cues from the pipe major, but he actually leads the entire band. We don't have a drum major, so the chief of the entire organization right now is the pipe major, and then comes the drum sergeant, because we don't have a drum major, and then from there it goes down through the pipe sergeant, the drum corporal, pipe corporal, all the way, and then into the senior pipers and junior pipers. We try to keep our juniors, the people raw beginners, we try to teach them on either a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 basis, so that each individual gets as personalized teaching as possible, because it is quite tricky to master, and it is, but it is not impossible. The only thing that you really need, as I said, is 8 fingers and a lot of determination.
Well, that's what makes the band good, is when you get new people, either the beginners who always have the great ideas, or some of the old pros that have been playing for years and want to come and play with us. It's all great. The more the merrier.
And with offering lessons to everyone and anyone, the Society hopes their bagpiping group will continue to draw interest, and in turn, they'll be able to watch their family grow.
Oh, it's great. It's so much fun. It's a lot of fun, especially with all the support of the other players. And well, my mom was the pipe major when I joined, so I decided that I liked the music, so I figured I'd join. And it's been about 5 years since then.
You know, you move to a town and you don't know anybody, and you play the bagpipes, and it seems like no matter what town you go to, there's a band that's looking for members, and it's a good way to meet people.
I found it really fun, and just the new challenges just keep me going. I think it's really fun, and I just can't stop playing them.
On your first performance, when you come out and you've got your gear on, usually wrong, somebody has to tell you that the sporran goes to the front, not the back. And they get everything arranged, and it's something that everybody goes through. You get a sense of belonging, a sense of belonging to a large family. Everyone looks out for everyone else. Everyone else, everyone. It's like my student said today. There's pipe band members, and there's everyone else. But everyone else can join us. All we have to have is determination.
And one thing these players all firmly believe, bagpiping is not something you listen to just with your ears. You have to have it in your blood and in your heart in order to become a great player and a dedicated member, not only to the music, but to this group of people.
But that's what keeps me going. It's the family atmosphere that everyone looks after each other and looks out for each other and is concerned about each other.
The group says 2 local companies, a Canadian fishing company and Ocean Fisheries, are paying less for the salmon than they did last year, without giving the fishermen any warning. Representatives from the group say when they returned with pinks last week, they were paid 15 cents, compared to the 25 cents paid the previous year.
If we take a look at the way the price has gone and continues to go down, we can't afford to come out here. The fuel prices have gone up, the repair for the seines have gone up, and we're losing.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection of his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.